Imagine for a moment that the history of astronomy was completely different. Imagine that instead of being located here, in the crowded, bright suburbs of the Virgo supercluster, our Milky Way galaxy was located somewhere else. Imagine we were 250 million light-years away, in the direction of the constellation Boötes. If we lived there, in the center of that darkness, human history would have changed fundamental ways. When the first astronomers pointed their telescopes at the sky, they would have seen the stars of our own galaxy, and nothing else. When Edwin Hubble looked into the deep black in the 1920s, he would have found blackness, no Andromeda, no triangulum, no distant clusters, just an endless, suffocating, eternal night. We would have concluded with absolute scientific certainty that our galaxy was the only object in the entire universe. We would have thought we were alone in an infinite void. We would not have known that other galaxies existed until the 1960s. This place exists. It is called the Boötes Void, and it is the most terrifying place in the entire observable universe. It is a sphere of absolute nothingness. It is a hole in the fabric of the cosmos, so massive that it defies easy explanation. It is 330 million light-years across. To understand how wrong this object is, you have to understand the scale. Our Milky Way is 100,000 light-years wide. The Boötes Void is 3,300 times wider than our entire galaxy. If you were in a spaceship travelling at the speed of light, it would take you 330 million years to cross it. That is enough time for civilizations to rise and times over. And for that entire journey you would see nothing. They call it the Great Nothing. The discovery of this anomaly in 1981 sent shockwaves through the scientific community. An astronomer named Robert Kirshner was leading a survey of galactic redshifts. He was mapping the universe, expecting to find the usual pattern. The universe is supposed to look like a sponge. It has filaments of galaxies, and it has gaps between them. This is normal, but Kirshner found a gap that was not normal. He looked at a massive patch of sky, expecting to find thousands of galaxies. He found one. Then he looked deeper. He found nothing. He kept looking. Statistically, in a volume of space that large, there should be approximately 10,000 galaxies, 10,000 cities of stars, each with billions of suns. Do you know how many they found? 60. Not 60,000. Just 60. Imagine walking into New York City. You expect to see 8 million people. You expect noise, traffic, lights, activity. But instead, you walk through the entire city, from the Battery to the Bronx, and you find only 6 people. The buildings are there, but they are dark. The streets are empty. The silence is absolute. That is the Boötes Void. It is a region of space that contains 0.27% of the entire observable universe, and it is effectively empty. Before we dive into the terrifying theories of T-Win-Y, it is empty. I have a question for you. If you had the technology to travel anywhere in the universe, would you dare to enter a place like this? A place where there are no stars to guide you, and where you are hundreds of millions of light-years from help? Or does the idea of that much nothingness trigger a primal fear in you? Drop your answer in the comments below. And if you enjoy exploring the darker corners of the cosmos, hit that subscribe button. We are going to shine a light where others are afraid to look. Now, let's look at the science. How does a hole this big form? The standard model of cosmology says that gravity pulls matter together. Over billions of years, galaxies are pulled into clusters, and clusters are pulled into superclusters. As they clump together, they leave empty spaces behind. These are called cosmic voids. They are the bubbles in the cosmic sponge, but the Boötes Void is too big. Standard computer simulations of the universe struggle to create a void of this magnitude. Physics suggests that voids should be smaller and messier. They should be irregular blobs. The Boötes Void is distinct. It is incredibly round. It is almost a perfect sphere. And this spherical shape is what keeps astronomers and conspiracy theorists awake at night. If you look at soap bubbles in a sink, you see small bubbles merging to form larger ones. This is the leading scientific theory. Perhaps the Boötes Void is the result of smaller voids merging together over billions of years. A supervoid. But even that explanation feels insufficient to many. The sheer statistical improbability of 10,000 galaxies missing from a specific region suggests something else. It suggests that the region is not just empty by chance. It suggests that the region was tumbuntiven. When we look at the few galaxies that seminary inside the void, they are strange. They are mostly tube-shaped or irregular galaxies. They are incredibly isolated. They are like the survivors of a disaster. They are the few houses left standing after a hurricane has wiped the rest of the city off the map. And this brings us to the most disturbing question of all. When we say the Boötes Void is empty, we mean that we cannot see any stars there. We mean that our telescopes detect no light. But in astronomy, dark does not always mean empty. A black hole is dark, but it is full of mass. Dark matter is dark, but it holds the galaxy together. What if the galaxies are still there? What if the 10,000 missing cities of stars did not leave? What if they are still exactly where they are supposed to be? Inside that 330 million light-year sphere. What if someone just turned out the lights? This is where the Boötes Void moves from an astronomical curiosity to a potential existential threat. In part 2, we are going to explore the Kardashev Scale, the concept of Dyson Spheres, and the terrifying possibility that this great nothing is actually the sprawling empire of a Type 3 civilization. Because if you were an advanced species expanding outward, conquering star after star, wrapping them in shells to harvest their energy, what would your empire look like to an observer far away? It would not look bright. It would look like a growing sphere of darkness. To understand exactly how a civilization could turn out the lights on a galactic scale, we have to look at a concept developed by the Soviet astronomer Nikolai Kardashev in 1964. He proposed a way to classify intelligent life not by its politics or its biology, but by its hunger. The Kardashev scale measures a civilization solely by the amount of energy it is able to consume. On this scale, humanity is currently a nobody. We are a Type 0 civilization. We are barely scratching the surface of our potential. We burn dead plants like coal and oil, and we scavenge a tiny fraction of the sunlight that hits our planet. We are roughly a 0.73 on the scale. We are still children playing with matches in the dark. A Type 1 civilization is a planetary master. They harness 100% of the energy falling on their planet from their sun. They control the weather. They control earthquakes. They have solved their energy needs completely. To us, they would look like gods. But to the universe, they are still just a local curiosity. But the Boötes Void theory requires something far more terrifying. It requires a Type 2, and eventually, a Type 3 civilization. A Type 2 civilization has outgrown its planet. To feed its hunger for energy, it must harness the entire output of its star. To do this, they would build a megastructure known as a Dyson Sphere, or a Dyson Swarm. Imagine billions of massive solar collectors, habitats, and factories orbiting a star in a dense shell. They would capture every single photon, every single watt of energy produced by the fusion reactor in the center. Now, think about what happens when you finish building this shell. To the beings living inside, life is perfect, they have infinite power. But to an astronomer looking from the outside, from millions of light years away, the star simply vanishes. The shell blocks the visible light. The star has been erased from the sky. It is still there, possessing gravity and mass, but it has gone dark. Now, multiply this by billions. A Type 3 civilization is the ultimate predator of energy. They have mastered interstellar travel. They do not just control one star, they control an entire galaxy. They spread from system to system, not to explore, but to harvest. If such a civilization existed in the Boötes region billions of years ago, their expansion would look exactly like the anomaly we see today. Imagine a civilization starting at a central home world. They consume their star. Then they send fleets to the nearest neighbours. They wrap those stars. The lights go out. Then they move to the next layer. Like a wave of locusts or a viral infection spreading through tissue, they expand outward in a perfect sphere. From the outside, you would not see ships. You would not see lasers. You would see a growing bubble of nothingness. You would see the stars flickering out, one by one, as the sphere of influence expands at a significant fraction of the speed of light. This matches the physical description of the Boötes Void perfectly. It is spherical, it is massive, and it is missing the galaxies that standard physics says should be there. The 10,000 missing galaxies might not be missing at all. They might simply be encased. They might be fueling a machine of unimaginable size, hidden behind curtains of metal and silicon. If this idea makes you feel small, hit that like button. It tells the YouTube algorithm that we are not afraid to ask the dark questions. Because the only thing scarier than being alone in the universe is realizing that the silence might actually be the sound of someone else eating. However, science demands we look for flaws in this theory. And there is one massive problem with the idea of a Dyson Sphere empire. It is called thermodynamics. The laws of physics are strict. You cannot use energy without creating waste. Even a Dyson sphere cannot capture 100% of a star's energy perfectly. The structure itself would heat up. The laws of thermodynamics dictate that this heat must be radiated away into space. So even if a Dyson sphere blocks visible light, it should glow brightly in the infrared spectrum. If the Boötes Void were full of encased stars, our infrared telescopes should see a massive glowing ghost. We should see the body heat of the empire. We have looked, and we have found nothing. The void is cold. It is not radiating heat in the way we would expect. This leads us to two disturbing possibilities. Possibility one is that the void is natural, and we simply do not understand how gravity works on these massive scales. Possibility two is far stranger. It suggests that a Type 3 civilization is so advanced that our understanding of physics is like a caveman trying to understand a smartphone. Perhaps they have found a way to use energy with nearly 100% efficiency, leaving no waste heat. Perhaps they use the heat to power other dimensions. Or perhaps they have engineering capabilities that allow them to mask their thermal signature entirely. In other words, the fact that we cannot see them might simply mean they are very, very good at hiding. And then, there is the mystery of the survivors. Remember the 60 lonely galaxies scattered through the void? The ones that Kirshner found. If this is an expanding empire that harvests everything in its path, why were they left behind? Why weren't they wrapped and harvested too? There is a dark hypothesis for this as well. It is called the zoo hypothesis. If you are paving over a massive rainforest to build a concrete megacity, sometimes you leave a few patches of trees standing. Maybe you leave them for decoration. Maybe you leave them as a biological preserve to store DNA. Or maybe you leave them as a control group. Perhaps the 60 galaxies inside the Boötes Void are not lucky survivors. Perhaps they are being kept, they are allowed to remain visible, allowed to keep their stars, so that the civilization can study the natural development of galaxies. Or perhaps they are simply not ripe. Yet, maybe they are being saved for a later date. This creates a picture of the universe that is fundamentally industrial. We look up and see a wild, beautiful cosmos, but the Boötes Void suggests that parts of it might already be owned. It suggests that there are forces at work that treat entire galaxies the way we treat mines or farms. And the most frightening part of the artificial theory is the geometry. A sphere, a natural void, forms from the random chaotic expansion of space. It should be lumpy. It should be irregular. It should look like a torn piece of bread. But an expansion from a central point, naturally forms a sphere. If you drop a stone in a pond, the ripples are circular. If a civilization starts at a homeworld and expands at the same speed in all directions, the territory they conquer will be a perfect sphere. The immense roundness of the Boötes Void is the strongest piece of circumstantial evidence that it might be an artificial phenomenon. But let's assume for a moment that it is not aliens. Let's assume there are no ships, no Dyson Spheres. Does that make the void less scary? It might make it worse, because if the Boötes Void is natural, it implies that the universe is broken in a way we do not understand. And there is a theory that says this hole might be a scar from something much bigger than a galaxy. Some physicists believe that the Boötes Void is not a creature, but a bruise. According to the multiverse theory, our universe might be just one bubble in a vast foam of other universes. Usually, these bubbles remain separate, floating in a higher dimensional space, but sometimes they touch, sometimes they collide. If another universe, a universe with different physics and different laws, bumped into ours billions of years ago, it would leave a mark. It would push matter away with incredible force. It would wipe the slate clean. It would create a spherical region of devastation where nothing could form properly. A cosmic scar on the skin of our reality. In this scenario, the Boötes Void is the site of a collision between realities. It is the point where our universe almost popped, and the 60 galaxies inside are simply the debris left over from the impact, the few survivors of a war between universes. This leads us to the ultimate question, the question of the future. The Boötes Void is 330 million light-years across, but it is located only 700 million light-years away from Earth. In cosmic terms, that is right next door. We are neighbours. If the void is actually an expanding wave of colonization, or a growing instability in space-time, is it getting bigger? If we looked at the edge of the void closely enough, would we see stars on the perimeter vanishing one by one? Is the shadow creeping toward us? We assume that we have time. We assume that if aliens were going to conquer us, they would arrive in ships. We expect an invasion fleet appearing in our skies. We expect lasers and explosions. But the Boötes Void suggests a different kind of end. An end that comes not with a bang, but with a slow, silent darkness. A darkness that expands from the horizon, extinguishing stars one by one until it reaches us. So, which reality is more terrifying? Is it more terrifying to believe that the Boötes Void is the home of a Type 3 civilization that is slowly turning out the lights in the universe? A predator that is hiding in the dark, growing stronger, and moving closer? Or is it more terrifying to believe that it is just a random accident? That the universe is flawed, broken, and full of empty holes where life simply cannot exist? The Boötes Void forces us to confront the scale of our own ignorance. We look at the night sky and we see a tapestry of light. We feel safe in our little corner of the Milky Way. But out there in the direction of the Herdsman constellation is a reminder that the light is the exception. The darkness is the rule. This darkness brings us to the ultimate cosmic horror. Not an invasion, but isolation. If the colonization theory is true, it implies that we are currently living in a safe zone that is temporary. We are like a tribe living in the Amazon rainforest, completely unaware that bulldozers are flattening the forest just a few hundred miles away. We see the birds stop flying. We see the horizon change colour. But we do not understand that our world is about to end until the machines break through the trees. If a Type 3 civilization is expanding at the speed of light, or near it, we would not see them coming. The light from the stars they extinguish would stop reaching us at the exact same moment the conquerors arrived. We would look up, see a star vanish, and instantly be consumed. There would be no warning, there would be no time to prepare. This solves the Fermi paradox in the darkest way possible. The reason we do not hear from other civilizations is not because they do not exist. It is because they have already been processed. They have been integrated into the machine. And we are simply the last house on the block that still has its lights on. But let us step back from the precipice of alien invasion and consider the other possibility. The natural one. the idea that the void is just empty space. This might seem comforting compared to galactic predators, but philosophically, it is almost worse. If the universe can create a hole 330 million light-years wide for no reason at all, it means the cosmos is indifferent to a degree that destroys the human ego. We like to think that life is the point of the universe. We like to think that galaxies exist to create stars, and stars exist to warm planets, and planets exist to house life. But the Boötes Void says number it, proves that the universe is perfectly happy to be dead. It proves that vast unimaginable stretches of reality can exist without a single atom of consciousness to witness them. It suggests that we are a statistical error, a fluke, a tiny contamination of life in a universe that is designed for emptiness. The 60 galaxies inside the void are the ultimate testament to this isolation. Imagine being a civilization on a planet in one of those tube-shaped galaxies. You look up at your night sky. You see your own sun. You might see a few other stars in your own galaxy. But beyond that, nothing. No Andromeda, no Milky Way, no Great Attractor. Just absolute crushing blackness for 300 million light-years in every direction. If a civilization arose there, they would have no concept of cosmology. They would think their galaxy was the entire universe. They would never dream of space travel because there would be nowhere to go. They would be trapped in a solitary confinement cell built by gravity itself. Maybe we are the lucky ones. We live in a crowded neighborhood. We have neighbors, we have a view. But the view is changing. Even if the Boötes Void is not artificial, it is a glimpse of our own future. As the universe expands and dark energy pushes galaxies apart, the voids will get bigger, the filaments will get thinner. Eventually, billions of years from now, every galaxy will be isolated. Every galaxy will be inside its own Boötes Void. We are moving toward an era of loneliness. The lights are going out not because of aliens, but because of the fundamental laws of nature. So, the Boötes Void is a mirror. When we stare into it, we are seeing the end of all things. We are seeing the silence that awaits us all. For now, the void sits there, silent, empty, waiting. Whether it is a natural desert or an artificial empire, it reminds us that we are very, very small, and that in the grand scale of the cosmos, entire galaxies can disappear, and no one would even notice for a billion years. So, what is your theory? Is the Boötes Void a natural anomaly, a multiverse collision, or the first sign of a galactic empire? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one, and your theories might just be the subject of our next deep dive. And if you think the idea of the universe suddenly changing is scary, you need to hear about the false vacuum theory. It is the idea that the universe itself is unstable and could delete itself at any moment without warning. Our next video is called "The Universe Could Delete Itself Tomorrow, and We Wouldn't See It Coming." It explores the ultimate cosmic catastrophe that happens at the speed of light. The link is in the description, or you can click the card appearing right now. Until next time, keep looking up.